This is the famous Shawshank prison. The prisoners here are so excited today. Because there's a new batch of criminals in the prison. They're only fun here, just bet on the new criminal which one will cry first. Because the first day I came here, often the hardest, as the prisoners are taken down one by one, everybody's got a stake. This man's name is Rhett. He's the department store in this prison. As long as you can afford it, there's nothing he can't get in. He took a fancy to the submissive man at a glance, bet 10 cigarettes on him. As the prisoner is brought into prison, what greeted them was the flushing of the high-pressure water tank and hot lice powder. At night, cry with the first fat man.
I don't belong here.
The audience is boiling.
And it's fat-ass by a nose.
This also surprised Rhett. He has always been good at seeing people, so he started to inquire about the identity of the man. It turns out that this man's name is Andy. He was a vice president of a bank. Imprisoned for being framed, the judge gave him 2 life sentences. Which means he may never get out for the rest of his life. Andy seems preoccupied every day when he comes here. He never interacts with people, behavior and mannerisms. It also seems out of place with the environment here. A month later, he took the initiative to find someone to talk to. And that man is Rhett. He begged Rhett to buy him a little hammer. Rhett jokingly asked if he wanted to break out of prison. Andy smiled and said he just likes to sculpt. Although doubtful, but when Rhett saw the hammer, his concerns were reassured. Because I want to dig a tunnel with this hammer. It may take 600 years to dig. He handed the hammer to Andy with confidence. Andy's loner character. Soon it was noticed by 3 people. Their unique sexual orientation, known as the sister flower in this prison. They always force Andy when Andy is alone. Andy will be beaten if he doesn't obey. 2 years have passed. The 3 sisters still did not let Andy go. Andy's face is often scarred. Although he never said, but everyone knows what's going on. The roof of the license plate factory outside the prison needs repairs this day. The warden decided to send 12 prisoners there. Andy was lucky to be chosen, and this chance will completely change his fate. While working, Andy overheard. A prison guard gets an inheritance, but he was very annoyed by the huge inheritance tax. Andy took his chance and went up. He told the prison guard that I have a way to make you avoid taxes reasonably. Don't have to pay a penny, but the condition is that the brothers you gave me 3 bottles of beer per person. Yes, he was the vice president of the bank. Given Andy's previous status, the guards believed Andy. So the day before the completion, all in the sun, drinking the beer that the guards bought them. At this moment they seemed to be free. Andy also, because of this incident, approved by inmates and Rhett. After returning to prison, Red bought Andy a giant poster. This has also successfully become Andy's huge plan booster. It's famous for picking up soap in Shawshank prison. 3 sisters learn that Andy is back. They harassed him again. Andy's refusal was another beating. But they don't know. Now Andy is a celebrity in front of the prison guards. When they heard the news, they decided to vent their anger on Andy. Since then, the 3 sisters have never looked for Andy again. Boggs, the leader, could no longer stand up. Soon Andy's talent was known by the warden. Covering the sky with one hand in prison. Received a lot of bribes over the years. But the money is out of sight. There is no way to spend it in a fair manner. He desperately needs a financial expert to help him clean up. And Andy just happens to be the perfect guy. Because he can never get out, Andy didn't disappoint. He uses his expertise, through stock securities insurance, launder all the money, and made up a fictional identity named Lando for the warden, transferred all the money to his name, so even if the IRS checks, the crime is not on him. The warden is happy with that. Since then, Ander has been reused. Not only does he no longer need labor camp, I have my own independent office. It can be seen how powerful the power of knowledge is, but he is kind, and want to redeem all the prisoners in Shawshank carry, with the consent of the warden. He sends a letter to the state legislature every week. Proposed expansion of library at Shawshank prison. 1 year has passed. No response to his letter. Today's library administrator, Lao Bu, take a prisoner suddenly. Under Andy's persuasion, he let go of the kidnapped prisoner. Andy later found out. It turns out that Lao Bu will be released tomorrow after serving his sentence. But he's been in prison for 50 years. Already institutionalized. He dare not face the outside world. Want to extend the sentence by re-offending. The next day, wife walks out of prison in outdated suit. For the first time in 50 years he saw the outside world. As a child he only saw one car. Now the streets are full of cars. The speed of the times is unbelievable. He was offered a job as a packer by the government, but due to age, although he has worked very hard, however, it was still disliked by employers. The outside world made it difficult for him to adapt. He often wakes up inexplicably at night. After waking up, a feeling of loneliness came to my heart again. He doesn't like the outside world. The outside world doesn't need him as a bad old man. After leaving a letter to Andy's people this day, he decided to leave this world. He left his name on the beam. It can be regarded as proof that I have been to this world. Go through it. On the other hand, Andy, who insisted on writing letters for 6 years, finally got a response from the state legislature. They promised to give to the prison library every year allocation of funds of 500 yuan. Andy used the money to contact the book club, bought a lot of used books, built the best prison library in New England. A few years later, a new group of inmates came to the prison. One of the prisoners, named Tommy, is very special. His cheerful personality is popular in prison, soon became a prison pistachio. In a chat, Tommy said he was in a prison. One of the inmates told him a very funny thing. The cellmate was involved in a robbery, killed 2 people by mistake. After that he faked the scene, successfully made a bank vice president, became his scapegoat. When Andy heard this, wasn't it me? With witnesses, he found the warden and asked the warden to help him commit the crime. But Andy knows so many of his secrets. How could you let him out? Despite Andy's reassurance, I will never talk nonsense when I go out, the warden still refused his request. In order to completely cut off Andy's hope, he even killed Tommy. This moment, Andy finally saw the darkness of this prison. Rhett persuaded him to accept the fact that resistance never ends well here. Andy told Red that if one day you go out, please do me a favor. To the great plowed fields north of Buxton, find a big oak tree. There's something I left for you in the rocks under the tree. Seeing Andy's flustered expression, Reed was a little worried. The warden also saw that Andy seemed to have something on his mind. Fortunately, I didn't ask too much. Andy returns to the cell at night, looking at Andy with a calm face. Rhett sensed his abnormality. Lightning and thunder outside tonight. Rhett, who didn't know the situation, stayed up all night. He does not know Andy tonight completed the plan he had planned for 20 years. A strange thing happened in Shawshank prison that day. Morning roll call. A prisoner has not shown up for a long time. Prison guards rushed forward to check, but the scene in front of them shocked them. Andy is missing. Prison guards quickly called the warden. The warden is furious. Rhett will be interrogated immediately. Rhett doesn't even know. The warden angrily picked up the stone and threw it at the wall. This smash directly smashed through the poster on the wall. When the poster is torn off, everyone understands that Andy is out of prison. All the cops out on the hunt. I searched all day, only found Andy's prison uniform and a nearly dismembered hammer. And Andy successfully escaped from prison with this small hammer. Remember, Rhett once said, it may take 600 years to dig a tunnel with this hammer, but he overlooked one point. Andy also has a lot of research on geography. He analyzed the composition of the rocks here. He found that as long as there is pressure in time, it's easy to dig through here, so he used the poster as cover. Started his plan. After turning off the lights every night, he began to dig slowly, taking advantage of walks during the day. Scatter the gravel you dug up last night on the fuck. That's it on the field. He used less than 20 years. Successfully breached the prison. Tonight until lights out, he crawled into the hole with the warden's evidence. Soon he found the prison's sewage pipe. Using the thunder as cover, he finds a rock. At the sound of thunder, he smashed down. Just try it many times. He managed to smash the pipe. Enduring the stench, he crawled 500 meters in the pipe. The moment he came out, he raised his arms to embrace the heavy rain. The heavy rain washed his body and brought him back to life. A few days later, a man named Landau, present at an offshore bank. This is his fictitious identity for the warden before. And now he's taking that role. He took $370,000 in black money from his account. Before leaving, he got the bank to help the warden's crime. The evidence was sent to the newspaper. Soon the warden's crimes were in the newspapers. He tried to escape, but the police were already downstairs. To evade sanctions, he chose to end his life. Shortly after, Rhett received a card from Hancock. Blank postcard from Coburg. When he opened the map and saw it was a borderline, he smiled. He knew it was from Andy. This means he has left the country and is free. He's not supposed to belong here. Now he is free. The inmates are also sincerely happy for him. just at sunset, occasionally missed this legendary friend. A few years later Red was also released from prison. He is also like the old cloth at that time. Walk out of prison in a dated suit. 40 years in prison. As a result, he was also institutionalized like Lao Bu. The outside world seemed out of tune with him. He was assigned to Lao Bu's former room. Except Lao Bu's previous job. He is also like old cloth. Can't fit into the current society at all. He left his name next to Lao Bu on this day, but it didn't follow the same path as Lao Bu, because he still owes Andy a promise. He came to the place Andy said, found the big oak tree under the stone beside. He found the item that Andy left him. A sum of money and a letter. He decided to go to Andy. He was so excited and excited all the way. This kind of friendship under the high wall seems to be better than our friendship in the bustling downtown. Come more pure and clean. They're both reserved people who know everything. Finally, the two finally met on a beach.